Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're listening and watching from. This is Leadership Talk with Adegoke, the 85th podcast. 85th podcast. And it's such a privilege to be sharing the platform with Sandari. How are you today?
Great, fantastic. So happy to be back on the podcast, Adegoke. I'm trying to remember, was I in for the 71st, 73rd, something like that? So I hope that we can make a hat trick next time.
Thanks a lot. It's such an honor to have you back again. The last session was very powerful, leadership and storytelling, and quite a number of the nuggets that you shared. In fact, my community, they've been so blessed, and the feedback was good. It was one of the most listened to podcasts on leadership talk with Adegoke. But before we jump into the session, I'd just like to do you know some value add. We have our sponsors, workcentral.ng, the sponsor of this podcast, and the workspace platform, virtual office, and the run 9 to 5, Mondays to Saturdays, and sometimes even beyond, the location in Lagos, Nigeria, and workcentral.ng, the website. You can reach out to them, and they offer value, excellent value. So they're the sponsors of Leadership Talk with Adegoke.
Oh,
So you're
that's
welcome once
fantastic.
again. Yeah.
Thank you, Adegoke. I'm excited.
Okay. Here you go. So tell us about yourself then.
Last time I think I told you that this is probably the toughest question among all the other questions that might come. So there's one way is the descriptive, our titles. So I'm an organizational consultant. I help leaders and teams create engagement and organizational commitment through the power of storytelling. I also am a faculty at a few universities. I mentor. I'm a facilitator and speaker, but that's like what I do. I think having a portfolio career means that you can be successful in multiple careers in your lifetime, and
Yeah.
each of it actually adds value to the other. So
Mm.
if I have skills from my corporate life or my consultancy practice, that's useful when I teach and so on and so forth. So I don't want to put a label to myself. I would
Awesome.
like to think that we are like, all have multi potential and we can be anything that we want to be.
Awesome. Awesome. Sandari, I just want to salute and celebrate you. Your depth of knowledge is very wide, and I know you love tennis.
Absolutely.
So, who was your favorite to win the Wimbledon? Did you have a
Oh,
favorite?
of course. And I'm going to share a bit about him later. But
No, I'm.
Rafael Nadal, always the favorite. I've been a big
Wow. Wow.
fan of him for a long time. So
Wow.
it was
So you love,
disappointing to see that
but
he had to go away with the
Novak,
injury.
but Novak won.
Yes. Well, Nadal went away because of an injury. So,
Yeah.
it's part of the game. I think
Yeah.
he taught a lot about, I think, in terms of leadership practice, about being stoic and
Okay.
taking things and really working on how mind over matter when it comes to practicing tennis.
Awesome.
He's always giving credit to his competitors and the people who are playing and really working hard at his game. And
Wow.
I'm a left-hander, though he's not a natural left-hander. I learn a lot from his game.
Wow. So you play tennis?
I do. I try.
Wow. Awesome. I also play, but it's been a while, but I'm trying to get back into that circle, but I just bought some new balls, so probably that will help me to get out there. Now, how
Yes.
about the ladies? The ladies, who was your favorite for the ladies?
Oh, I did. I tossed up between Iga and Ons Jabeur.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so I was slightly disappointed again in the finals. I think, but when it comes to the game, it's that moment, right? It's that point in time. What do you do then? And definitely, Ons didn't pick up her game to the next level, which is what is needed for a Wimbledon final.
Yeah.
Of course, Ryberg, she was really upping her game at every level. So all credit to her. I mean, it was a fantastic match.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it is. It is. I mean, the finals is always different from semis, and the build up. You need more than being a tennis player. You need the leadership. You need to be stoic. You need to be agile, be able to adapt. Because it's always a big day. Now you're welcome once again to Leadership Talk with Adegoke. This is the 85th podcast, and we're looking at leadership and relationship management. That's right, leadership and relationship management. Tell us, what is it about relationship that excites you?
right. One thing that affects all our life majorly is the relationship with other people.
That's
Let
right.
it be family, let it be friends, our partners, um, and extending it to the work life relationship with our employers, employees, co-workers, colleagues, bosses. So it is such a quintessential part of what we do on a day-to-day basis, building
That's right.
relationships. So just for example, if you have a fight with your child, with your loved one, or a friend is not responding to some of your call or something, or you have a really bad conversation with your colleague or a boss, you end up spending your whole day fretting about it. And then till you go
That's
out
right.
with a friend and have a conversation, a good conversation, you have a laugh or something, then it fixes your mood. So really, relationships govern everything that we do on a day-to-day basis. And
Wow.
in the pandemic, when we are working hybrid, when we're doing remote work, in person, asynchronous, synchronous, people are hungering for interaction and
Mm,
opportunities to really connect with others. And
mm.
leaders really creating that space for that conversations and for that connection is very, very crucial. I mean, I would say leaders are actually just relationship managers.
Yeah.
Technology will help us track all the giga and petabytes of data and everything generated by the firm. But the
Mm.
CEO's skill is tested in how well they navigate the complex web of all stakeholder relationships.
Awesome. 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 So, I mean, when you look at relationships, does a leader need to have a good understanding of how to build relationships? Is it important for a leader that?
Absolutely. And, if you will permit me, let me start with the Rafael Nadal example on how
Yeah.
some of these things actually have to come naturally, have to be part of your being. And you can work at it, of course. So this was Australian Open Tennis 2020.
Okay.
Nadal was playing in one of the, I think it was the second round clash on Rod Laver Arena. He was playing against Argentine Federico Delbonis.
Yeah.
And one of his forehands are ferocious, right? And one
Yeah.
of his forehands went and hit this ball kid, Anita Burchell, who was also a fan of his. And Nadal was appalled. So he quickly ran up to her and checked on her whether she was okay. He gave her a peck on her cheek, and the young girl was blushing. And he says that for her, it was not a good moment. And I was so scared for her. The ball went quick and straight to her. So he was
Phew.
really, very conscious of what happened.
Yeah.
So he went and then, after the match, he gave her his headband as a memento to, just forget those things and bad
Yeah.
moments and all that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he says that, she was very brave and he didn't stop there. He met up with Anita and her family the next day, had breakfast with them, spent time with them, and then he signed a cap for her saying, "To my friend Anita, all the very best." So you
Wow.
can imagine what this must have done to a fan, right? And
Mm.
in this moment, we form an opinion of who Nadal is as a person.
Mm.
So extending this to leaders from a company point of view, it's about building that trust, keeping that at the center of your brand.
Mm.
So that's what
Mm.
leaders really need to do on
Wow.
relationship management.
Awesome, awesome. So, now, good one. When it comes to leadership, there's so many dimensions to leadership. But how about the personality of the leader? Does it help? Does it determine relationships? The
Yeah,
personality of a leader,
yeah, yeah.
in terms of, yeah. To what
Yes,
extent? Yeah.
no, yes, definitely. We have right now in the world, we have all kinds of people who are in leadership positions, right? Some of them are having to resign, some of them not working out in the corporate space, in the political space. So we have a whole spectrum of people. But if you say, what is the constant work of leadership? It is tuning into the team's emotions. It's fostering productive work relationships. It's
Yeah.
building trust. It's building a conducive environment where the team is, really working towards a better outcome for itself.
Yeah.
So there's this lady, Carla Harris, who wrote a book called Strategize to Win. And she used to be, I'm not sure where she is now, but she used to be the senior client advisor at Morgan Stanley. And she
Okay.
says that leaders are measured by two things. One is the performance currency, and the other one is the relationship currency. And if you
Wow.
can multiply these two together, you have something which is special. And today we
Wow.
are facing a global leadership crisis, right? We are seeing it all over the world. Leave the political side, even the corporate side. 70% of the leaders think that they are doing a great job of engaging with their people,
Yeah.
yet 88% of the employees says the leaders don't engage enough.
Yeah. That's right.
And
That's
we
right.
end up spending $46 billion every year or more on leadership development.
Wow. 46 billion.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's probably more than that. This was like probably a dated number. So I think while personalities are important, sometimes we tend to think of leaders and the impact as the big things, which is why
That's
we are
right.
thinking of personality. But it's not
Mm.
about the big things, it's not about changing the world. Sometimes it's really making life better in what I call the lollipop moments, those small
Yeah.
moments, right? I mean, I can give an example of something that I heard in a TEDx talk, and you will
Yeah.
really relate to it, Adegoke, because this is something you do as well. So
Yeah.
there's a person called Drew Dudley. He's a leadership educator, and he's the author of this book called "This Is Day One."
Mm.
And he talks about something that happened during his college days. So there was this girl that he met on his last day at the university, but what happened to be her first day at the university. So Drew is doing some volunteering. Let's give her a name. Let's call her Lucy. So Lucy is standing in the line for registration. She's scared. It's her first day at college. She's not sure, oh, is this university for me? Should I leave and go and all that? And she notices that Drew is standing there with a hat in his hand and with a
Wow.
signboard promoting some cause that he's passionate about. And he's handing out lollipops from the bucket to all the people standing in the registration line. And then Lucy says, all of a sudden, Drew comes to her and he says, he just stopped and stared. And it was creepy. You have this guy staring at you. Then he reaches out into the bucket, gives her a lollipop,
Yeah.
and gives a lollipop to a person, to the guy who was standing in front of Lucy. And he tells the guy, you need to give this lollipop to the beautiful woman standing next to you.
Awesome.
Now, you can imagine how embarrassing it must have been for Lucy and for the guy. Absolutely embarrassing. So the guy is turning beet red. He's not even making eye contact with Lucy. He's sort of, but the lollipop is stuck in his face. So he's just taking that and he gave it to her. And, he was like absolutely cringing and
Yeah.
it just went away. And Drew, as soon as she gave the lollipop, she got the lollipop from this guy. Drew looks at her mom and dad and says, look at that, first day away from home, and she's already taking candy from a stranger. And everybody laughed in the line. And at that moment, Lucy decided that she will not quit. She went on to finish her education and marry the guy who was embarrassed to give her the lollipop.
Wow. Wow.
And
Awesome.
I think the twist there is that Drew played such an important role, right, in the life of that girl. He doesn't remember this incident at all. The girl
Wow.
narrated to him much, much later. So he calls these the lollipop moments. So really, it is not about those big things. And this has happened to me. And I posted about this yesterday. So one of my previous bosses, Shiv Kumar, he's come out with a second book called The Art of Management. And he's somebody that I've worked with for a long time in Lipton. He went on to
Mm.
head Nokia, Philips, and he's with a really large textile conglomerate now, heading their strategic management division. I was in India last month and I told him, oh, you must give me an autograph copy of your book. Just buying a book from the store won't do. I want your autograph. And
Yeah.
a couple of days later, he followed up asking me, he WhatsApped me and said, did you get the book? And I hadn't got it. And he kept tracking it till I received it. Now,
Wow.
somebody who is so big, so busy, so much to do, he didn't have to do that for me.
Mm.
But it is these small moments which build those relationships.
Mm. Wow. Awesome. Now, that's a good one. Now, let me just jump in. Because I want to try and take as much as I can from your wealth of knowledge. Now, how do you deal with a toxic leader? How do you relate to the toxic leader?
You know, I remember this lady had mentioned about in the conversation. I think we talked about this as well in the conversation of diversity. There is this lady who was like going to be promoted to be, vice president of marketing. She's due for a promotion, but she's
Yeah.
also pregnant with a second child.
Mm.
And there's this leader who's a boss who thinks she will not be able to make it.
Mm.
So he doesn't offer her the promotion.
Mm.
So she goes to the room and she says, this is like time for my promotion. And we had this conversation. I'd like to know what's stopping it. And he turns around and looks at her and says, I've never known anybody has got two kids who can head marketing.
Wow.
Now, how do you react to something like that? It's really in the face. Sometimes you can get very emotional. Sometimes you can get very upset. But what is the way to react to it? And she decided in her calmness, and it was amazing. She just stayed calm and she turned around and asked him, how many kids do you have? And you guess his reply, Adegoke. What was his reply?
Oh, well, it could be 2 kids, 4 kids.
He had two kids.
Wow.
So I think she just let the penny drop for him at that moment when he was really preventing that promotion. You have two kids. You're my boss. You're heading marketing. So why do you think that I won't be able to do it? So I think there are lots of ways of going about doing it, especially when you're dealing with somebody who is, need not be downright toxic, but who is creating all these inequities for you at workplace.
Wow. So, now you just hit the nail on the head, creating the challenges for you in the workplace. You have different types of leaders. When I look at the DISC, are you aware of the DISC profile?
Yes,
the DISC?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, can you use the DISC to speak to how to, deal with different types of relationships from your own perspective?
Adegoke, I'm going to make a confession. So one of the things is that I think all models are wrong and some are useful. But some are useful. So while, there are DIS and MBTI and everything else, I don't like to label people by their styles. It is people at the end of the day. And we relate to people as people. It doesn't matter. And I'm sure all of us in a different context will be a different profile.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go do it from a DISC profiling point of view, but I would rather think about some of the people who made a difference because they listened. Because they actually had the courage to go ahead and build those relationships. So there was this lady called Marcy Schinder. She used to be the chief marketing officer of Work Market. It's a New York based firm which helps businesses manage their freelancers and consultants. So something which is very relevant these days, right? Everybody's a gig player. So before her first day of work, she decided to actually arrange to meet several of her colleagues for informal coffees and lunches. So one-on-one meetings, so which were more personal, less structured, but that
Yeah.
allowed her the time to build the rapport. And she
Hmm.
went in with a listening agenda. She
Hmm.
just wanted to learn, what are your goals? What is important to you? What do they think about working? What is working well in the company?
Intentionality. Yeah.
Yeah, and what do you want me to accomplish? And she made sure that with her body language, she was fully focused on that conversations. Like, we call it sitting up straight, making eye contact, looking open, looking engaged. So she did that with intent, absolutely, just what you said about intentionality. And these early meetings really helped her understand perspectives, personalities, motives of the colleagues. So, I mean, we're talking about personality types, right? So it could have been
Yeah.
some risk profile that she unearthed by
Hmm.
listening, but not by administering a questionnaire, but by listening to them and understanding them. And then that gave her an idea how she can work forward in the company. And she customized these conversations. So that's where,
Hmm.
again, I'm linking it back to the profiling piece without calling somebody this, that, or that. She
Now.
customized the pitch to each individual. So when she was sitting with Stephen Devitt, the CEO, she talked
Yeah.
about the company's vision. When she was sitting with Jeff Wald, who was the president and the CEO, who's an analytical thinker, she started with the metrics. And
Hmm.
when she was sitting with the chief customer officer, she focused on the customer side.
Wow.
So she really tweaked it to the person that she was talking to,
No,
which is
but
exactly,
Soundary, that's for a leader that is transformational.
yes.
That's a transformational. But how about a transactional leader?
I think, okay. So let me, this is probably an example of what not to do in some ways. Sometimes some of the disciplines, the work areas, they are very analytical, right? So
Yeah.
people think just being analytical is enough. So
Mm.
there was this guy, Luke Brown, who used to work as an Air Force engineer, I think. And then he moved into project management. And
Yeah.
his first role was managing aircraft acquisition projects. And he was determined to be successful. So he went and enrolled in a lot of project management courses. He said that if he had a strong project plan and a detailed schedule, he would succeed. He was very sure about it. So in
Yeah.
his first project, he had this beautiful plan drawn out. All the scheduling was done. But a couple of years, the project started going off the rails. They were falling
Wow.
behind schedule.
Wow.
So he went to ask his senior executives, why do you think the project plan isn't working? So they just said, you need a better plan. You need a more detailed schedule. So he goes and works on that for his next project, more detailed plan, more detailed schedule. Second project also goes off track. He
Hmm.
again goes back to the senior executive, same situation for the third project. Then he starts thinking, maybe it's not me. Maybe it's not my plan. Maybe it's not the schedule. Maybe there's something more to it. And he had this mantra, plan the work and work the plan. But
Wow.
clearly that was not working. So he sought out people in the organization who had successfully managed difficult projects and he went and asked
Awesome.
them for advice. And what they said was they succeeded because they built stronger relationships.
Awesome. Awesome.
They not only got to know their teams, they got to know the contractors, and so they worked well together.
Awesome.
And so what he did was then, really the penny dropped for him that, oh, this is a major, project concern, this relationship piece. So within a year, he got his project back on track, made it, deliver, and he turned the project around with a new mantra: plan the
Wow.
work and work with people.
Wow. Wow. Plan the walk and walk with people. Now, let me jump in. Now, research has shown that as a leader, you need 42% of technical skills and
Mhm.
58% of social awareness, emotional
Mhm.
intelligence. Do
Mhm.
you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it sort of plays well to my own experience when I was in ANZ. At some point of time, domain expertise was very important. But
Yeah.
as I went along my career, I could figure out that it is people management. It's really
Wow.
working with people and working with teams. And this we see, right? When we are starting our initial career, we need to more manage ourselves first.
Yeah.
We need to manage our time, our emotion, our ambition. So it's very internal, self driven.
Yeah.
Then we, widen that circle and start managing teams.
Hmm.
And when we become good at that, when the impact becomes, escalating, we start widening the circle even more, and we are able to manage organizations, and the impact is exponential by then.
Wow. Wow.
So
Wow.
really, I think the core of it is about people. So the teams part and the self part, it's about people.
Hmm.
And the rest of it is about, your domain expertise. How are you structuring a deal? How are you getting money from the market? How are you focusing on your EBITDA, and so on and so forth, all the other things.
Awesome. Can I call you Professor Sandari? This is so good. This is so good.
Oh.
I'm sure that those who are going to be listening to the replay will be so blessed by, a lot of content. And, this is experiential for me. I'm so glad. This is Sandari. Sandari is from Hong Kong. She's adding so much value. She's a leadership expert. She's a storytelling expert. She's all rolled the one, so many years in banking, and she's showing up globally. Now, this is so good. Leadership and relationship management. Now, are you aware of the 5 levels of leadership, John Maxwell? Maxwell, 5 levels of leadership. Do
You
in
tell
terms
me
of,
about it. You tell
yeah,
me about it. There are so many
in terms of,
models.
yeah, in terms of position,
Mm,
permission,
mm,
production, people development, and the pinnacle. Positional leadership is about, your leader based on your position, people, just respond to you.
right.
But based on, then you earn their trust, they give you permission to lead. Then
Mm,
you have production based on your performance. Then you have people development where you get involved, you become a mentor to the people. You pull them by the hand, hold them by the hand, encourage them just intentionally. Then the pinnacle is leaving a legacy, which is
right.
even long after you're gone, your work speaks for you. So one has to be very intentional, but it can be a level one leadership for
Mm,
forever, which is
mm,
your position. Use it to, try to impress and try to assert, but it doesn't last long.
mm, mm,
Some people move from 1 to 2, but when you get to the production, that's the
mm,
game changer because
mm,
you now become an inspirational leader. You
right.
you drive energy. You're agile. You're able to adapt. But to move from 3 to 4, also you also have to be intentional. People development. Even while you're not there, the companies on autopilot, and it says so much to, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I just have 2 more questions. So that I don't overwhelm you. Now,
I'm
what
learning.
is
I'm listening and learning. So I'm enjoying our conversation from, talking about the levels. And I mean, definitely they've seen that the best leaders are the ones where the team works in absentia.
That's right. That's right.
So,
I am also a pastor. I've been a
yeah,
pastor about 15 years,
yes.
and my congregation is about 90% police officers. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So that's a very unique community. So sometimes I'm away for about 7 months,
Mm,
and I leave the church, and I come
mm,
back. The church is on autopilot, but it takes a lot of work, and you have to be intentional, get involved in people's lives, one on one, and also group sessions, and end the trust, trust and respect, which is very important. But these things are not just it's not just rocket science. Relationships are very important. I mean, we have a relation. This is your second time of coming on Leadership Talk with Adegoke, and I'm sure that the next time I'm available in Hong Kong, at least we'll go out for lunch. Yeah,
wow.
meet your family as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
think that's how I think you keep the connections and build on the relationships. It's
yeah,
never just that one, it's not transactional at all, ever. It's what you put
mm,
into the relationship. And I think it's two ways as well.
yeah,
And the same thing works for leadership as well. I think only
yeah,
at leadership level, obviously, you need to restrict the number of relationships that you'll be able to nurture
yeah,
effectively,
yeah,
It's almost like that Robin Dunbar number, even 150 is probably a bit too much for senior leaders, because they need to do the work as well, right? It's not
Yeah.
just, say, just for example, it's not connecting with everybody who connects with you on LinkedIn. Maybe they won't have the time for it, because they
Yeah.
need to actually focus on other work as well.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think just
Yeah.
again that intentionality to what you do and how you show up.
Wow, wow, wow. Amazing, amazing. Two more questions for Sandari. Sandari, what is that one thing you're going to tell a leader right now, in terms of relationship management? Just share with us one thing.
Yeah. So, one of my school friends, we had this diary where we wrote notes to each other when we were leaving school. So she wrote for me, "Moments pass, memories linger."
Wow.
And I think that's what a leader needs to remember, that
Moments pass, memories linger. Okay.
their presence is so impactful, and they can be so inspiring in everything that they do. So if as a leader, if you're just, you have to share examples, your experiences, and that's the storyteller in me as well. Your role modeling, that's the best way you can create the culture. People are looking at how leaders are talking the talk, how are they walking
Walking the
the
talk.
talk,
Yeah.
and how are they walking the walk. And
Wow.
if there is a disconnect, they are going to oat with their feet. They're just going to
Wow.
leave and go to another organization. So I think that's what leaders need to be very intentional about, the impact that they are creating in every interaction.
Awesome. Awesome. Finally, Sandari, I'm sure our listeners would like to connect with you. Your wealth of experience is, someone you is come as someone that we can celebrate, publicly and also privately. I celebrate you. I see you all over the place, adding value intentionally. Your reach is very diverse, and I just want to celebrate you for coming on Leadership Talk with Adegoke the second time. The first time was leadership and storytelling. Now, leadership and relationship management. Now, how can our listeners connect with you? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for your kind words. I am enriched. I do believe that learning is not a bucket to be filled, it's a fire to be lit. And you're
Wow.
doing that with your talks and with the work that you do. So I'm blessed to be here with you. LinkedIn is the best place. I have
I
a
know.
presence on Twitter. I'm not overactive on Twitter, but LinkedIn would be a good way to reach out. And I would love to, connect with your viewers and learn from them as well.
Awesome, awesome. You've heard it from the lady Sandari from Hong Kong, and this is Leadership Talk with Adegoke, 85th podcast, and leadership and relationship management. It's been an awesome session, and so for those who are going to be listening to the replay, just make sure you take as many notes as possible. She always has a lot of quotes. Sandari is full of quotes. Any
Thank you so
last
much,
words? Any
Adegoke.
last words in 30 seconds?
No, thank you so much. Really a privilege to be in the conversation and learn from you and your community. I look forward to doing the hat trick with you sometime.
Oh, wow. Thanks. Thanks, everyone, for staying tuned. Thanks. Have a great day. Thanks.